Hello, welcome to our World Today, the live discussion. We're happy to be with you today, and we're going to talk about the topics that really spoke to us this week. And we're going actually to evoke the evolution of social media, because we have a lot of news on that side, with the creation of threads mainly, and how Twitter has been in decline for almost a year now, since all of the changes that happened. And so we thought that it would be interesting to talk about threads and check up on Twitter and see how it's doing, and then go on with our other topics. So beginning with threads, I'm sure you've all heard about the new social media from Instagram. It's not available in Europe just yet, but we definitely have seen all the promotion about it, even like notifications on Instagram to kind of join as well. And yeah, just wanted to see how you guys, maybe like you feel this is fun, maybe you feel like it's a breath of fresh air for Instagram. See how you feel about it, basically, and how you see it when a new social media platform is basically created.
I guess with threads, it feels like it offers more stability, I guess, and reliability of like what they're going to offer and like what the platform is going to be like, compared to Twitter right now, because Twitter has just been like going through like a lot of changes, turbulence, but I don't know. And I would just be interested to compare threads to Twitter and be like, so like, how are they different and everything like that? Because I know Twitter has, Elon Musk has said that he's cut a lot of the staff because he didn't want to like do content moderation or as many restrictions on people who made speech that would be deemed to be like hate speech or offensive, basically, and that he didn't want to do that. But I think Threads is like contrasted as being like at least saying that they uphold some standards, just like Facebook does, just like Meta does, and everything like that. And so that's interesting. And yeah, also how Twitter was moved recently to limit the number of tweets you can see in a day for everybody, and less so if you're paying for the subscription for, yeah. So I don't know. I was wondering like what you guys felt about that. Do you guys feel any significance behind this? Or what do you feel is the significance behind it? Yeah.
I would just say that a lot of people have compared Threads to Twitter, but like the CEO of Instagram, Adam Mosseri, is always saying that Threads would not be about political and social topics, so it's not really the same. And I wonder if he's saying that to avoid attracting the same audience, because we really want to be differentiated from the people that just want to argue on Twitter, just the people that want to enjoy the spontaneity of an app, of a social media, or if they actually don't plan to focus on politics at all and have a really strict rule about about political subjects, which I don't think they can do, really restrict the subjects like that. So yeah, I was just wondering if it was like a communication, the way they communicate about the social media to really, really differentiate from Twitter, even though people are always going to compare the two, or if it's actually like a real thing.
Yeah, that's the biggest question in my mind as well. Yeah, because I read that part of the intention behind this was to create a platform where people aren't talking about politics and it isn't, full of just like the issues that we see on Twitter, just a lot of trolling, a lot of hate speech, a lot of like rhetoric being exchanged back and forth. But yeah, I'm not, similar to what you said, Irene, I'm not quite sure how they're going to manage that or control that. And is it just going to become another Twitter or just like another version of like any other social media platform? So yeah, I wish there was more transparency about, how they're going to maintain that intention. If that is really what they intend, like, how are you going to do it? Or is it going to be through just attracting certain people or, making sure there's like clear community guidelines, like whatever it is? I'm curious to see how it's going to play out, because if it just turns out to just be another, like, similar to Twitter, I don't really see the point of having another social media platform, honestly.
Well, I guess from like the perspective of like loving your audience and giving value to them, it does give the value the fact that it's integrated with the rest of Meta, so like Instagram, so people could see that as valuable. And yeah, like you were saying, like, we're not sure like how or if truly they're going to enforce that whole like it's not about politics thing. But if it truly is, then it would offer something different. So it would like not just be like crowding the market. It could just literally be like a clone of Twitter that has apolitical philosophy that is just capitalizing on the chaos of Twitter just to usurp it completely. I feel like that is the real underlying intention. And then what I feel behind it is them saying like, oh, like no politics. They're just trying to sidestep this whole debate. Because now, and for a long time, there's been a huge debate about, I know at least in the United States, there has been, but probably around the world too, like, what should people be allowed to say and in what spaces, and what are people's rights when it comes to that? Like, everyone is curious about that. So I think they feel like by sidestepping politics completely, you can just avoid all that, but you can't really, because everything, many things have a political dimension to them. And anything like, if like there's a conversation about like a trans social media influencer who's promoting the latest, high SPF sunblock or something, like everyone's going to be like, we don't want to say that, so they can start debating about it politically, even though it's about promoting sunblock, or something. I just thought of that because it's a product that I need more of, because this sun is so intense out here in Colorado. So you're high elevation, so, and I'm trans, so those came together. Yeah. Anyway. So, but what do you guys feel about that?
I agree with you. It was very funny, but yeah, I have to agree with you. I feel like there's no real intention behind that. First of all, it feels like because of the decline of Twitter, like people on Instagram are not like they see an opportunity to take more markets, and they probably are going to do it. And I think it's the response with Threads. Obviously, like, it's innovation, right? Because like companies are always wanting to expand and innovate, but it doesn't have a real offer and value except that it's from Meta. You can connect with your Instagram account, and I feel like the fact that it's a fresh social media, usually you have more freedom because the algorithm is not so closed down as the other social media platforms. So people definitely, I personally do see that as an opportunity to express more freely. People can see that as an opportunity to like expand their stats and be discovered, just like at the beginning of TikTok, for example. And also like the Instagram was really like, on the fire because for a lot of time last year, you couldn't see the post of your friends. You saw mostly like recommendations, suggestions. Like you can see pictures, it's always about algorithm and things like that. And I think people were fed up with that. It's settled down a little bit because the algorithm is like more gentle, but it's still something that like Instagram is trying to get away from, like a photo app. And they're like, okay, Be Real is taking roots, so like we need to like expand to something that keeps people interested. I think at least for me it feels that way. And the second thing is that basically because it doesn't have, contrary to Spill, like it doesn't have anything to offer that is very fresh and new and interesting and attractive. It just benefits from having a huge platform already. And the thing with that is that because the algorithm is not so closed down, the audience is going to make it whatever they want it to be, And so I guess it will be up to the users to define how the app is actually going to turn out, really and truly. And I think like the audience from Instagram is not the same as the audience from Twitter most of the time, especially with like most of the separation that we've seen in the past few years. So the use could end up being different, but it's definitely going to be in the hands of the audience. And I don't think we're going to count on the vision for the app refining. I think it's really going to be driven by user-generated content. So we actually don't know. I think we can't predict it for now.
Yeah, it feels like there's just a lot of potential for, like, it feels more stable and less chaotic than Twitter, So I don't know. It could be good, and if they like you guys were saying, if they can uphold what they're saying, that would be great. But we'll have to see how they implement that.
And one question I wanted to ask too is, I was wondering is, from the perspective of someone who doesn't know a lot about this, and like, how different would Twitter be if it doesn't take action on people who say things that are abusive and hateful than Facebook and Instagram? Because like there's a lot of that same kind of stuff on Facebook and Instagram. Like Meta isn't like, they're just not, they either don't have that capability or they don't have that interest. They don't want to suppress traffic like that, but I just don't know like how different threads and all the Meta stuff is from like a completely unpoliced Twitter land. Like, do you guys have any insight on that? Because I wasn't really under the impression that content was very moderated on Facebook either. You kind of just block people or avoid stuff that isn't nice to you or loving to you, or if you want, I don't know.
Well, Facebook does have that like fact check feature.
Oh yeah.
Because I posted something about like a woman baking bread in her mailbox in Texas.
Oh.
And for some reason, like Facebook didn't like that. And so I think that's a newer feature though. I feel like it came out while like around the time Donald Trump was running for president.
Yeah.
They like started this whole fact checking thing. But obviously like the algorithm is off because I didn't say anything like untrue in my post. And so I don't know how effective it is. Like, I don't know if there's actually people like monitoring it that are able to like be more critical, or they just have like keywords. And if you say something, like if it just fits the keywords, then. So yeah, I would be interested in knowing more about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. it's too bad because it really felt like Spill was going to change the culture about that by making something really and truly worth it, but it seems like the GAFAM, the big companies, don't really want that feature. They're not interested in it, and so yeah, I'm guessing that Threads for now is going to look like a younger version of Twitter, where people just shared things that were funny and maybe there is a moderating system on here, but we don't know. And people like friends and the friends of friends are going to like it, think it's funny to share and things like that. It's going to, it feels like the younger version of Twitter in that sense. So it feels very innocent because like most of the people that are users of apps like that are not really always haters. We see haters because we're loud, but yeah, I don't think they're really interested in going deeper into the innovation of just having a new social media that is actually respectful of what is true and what is false and supporting of the truth like that. So we'll have to see.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And Elon Musk, though, he was saying like, when he was asked about that in this one interview I saw, he was like saying, if we're supposed to be like, who is supposed to be the arbiter of what is true and what isn't, and that's why he was justifying his Twitter policy of not doing that kind of fact checking type of thing, because he's saying like he wasn't saying like it's impossible to know what's true or false. He was saying, who's to say that we should be the arbiter of that, and I
But
was
yeah, but it came into Twitter with the promise of saying no to fake news. So it kind of feels like it didn't want hate either. I don't know.
Oh, he did.
Yeah, it was one of things of like no more fake news, no more like circulating of false news, of haters and things like that. So it really feels like it didn't uphold like what he was coming down to do, I guess. But yeah.
Maybe that's the issue then, is that he wasn't clear on his vision, or he's not yet.
Yeah.
So,
I don't understand him though. Like, you're not going to be able to moderate everything, and you're not going to want to get into a paranoia of saying like, oh, this must be a hater thing, even though someone was talking about something true. For example, like Andia, when she was sharing about the story of bread making. But and I feel like he's saying that because it's hard work. Like, I don't think it's something that you can accomplish in a day. But the way he's communicating that feels like, or maybe like the media transformed it, people transformed how he was saying it. But yeah, it did take on a big task. We're not gonna lie. But again, it feels like this big task, instead of like monetizing and controlling and performing in this way, it felt like it could have been avoided with the people it could have partnered with, for example, the ones that created Spill, to say like, right, we want this algorithm now, and it's going to moderate from us while keeping the liberty of things. But yeah, I don't know. It feels like it's a nice transition to kind of reflect on why Twitter is actually declining, why it is losing money, and what are the reasons for that? Because like we're talking about like Elon Musk, but there must have been like other things. So yeah, how do you guys feel about that?
well, I feel like, so basically Elon Musk is switching away like from a revenue model that was really dependent on advertising, like most social media is, and switching to like a subscription-based model where you have to like subscribe. And he's been doing everything that you should do if you're doing that model, like limiting how much users can engage with the platform. Like when he said, like, you can only view 1,000 tweets a day if you don't have a Twitter Blue subscription. And then you can only view 10,000 tweets a day if you do have a subscription, which I don't yet understand why he did that. And then it seems like he's doing that because he has this whole idea that like people should be able to say whatever they want, whether it's true or false, whether it's loving or unloving, we should just completely let go of all that moderation. He was saying he got rid of a lot of the staff because he was like, it turns out you don't need, he cut the staff by 80% at Twitter. And because he said, it turns out that you don't need very many people to run Twitter if you're not trying to make it into an activist organization, And I thought that was like funny and everything. And but it's just interesting. So with him like moving toward that model, obviously advertisers are like more and more like, oh, I don't want to be involved in this. And then, yeah, the subscription model apparently isn't yet getting enough people to make the company positive, financially profitable yet. So I don't know. So we'll see. Yeah. But yeah. What do you guys feel about that?
I also wanted to add, I feel like one of the articles stated that like the decline had started long before Elon Musk took over. And I know like everyone's attributing all the losses and the financial decline to him, but it seems like Twitter was on this pathway, so to say, before he took over. And I think things may look a little messy, but who's to say that whatever he's doing right now may help a bit. I don't know. It may even out, because it is almost like Twitter was like spreading itself kind of thin, and then he kind of came in and is like condensing things. And it could be a good thing, it could be a bad thing. That's still yet to, we haven't seen it, I guess, the full outcome of these choices.
Yeah, it feels like kind of in politics when someone becomes president and people are accusing him to like shut down the economy and bad things to happen during his mandate, when most of the origins of what is happening at present were the doings of the former president. I think it sometimes happens in all countries, actually. And reading that article about Elon Musk, it felt like it was more about Elon Musk than Twitter. And that's why I wanted to ask, like, it's not just about Elon Musk, like, why do you feel there's a decline in Twitter? And the way it was said was like, yeah, he cut off most of the employees of Twitter, and he cut off this and cut off that and things like that. And I don't know, it doesn't feel like it's really explaining what are the actual links between all of it, especially because the company is saying that the revenue is looking kind of up since July. So maybe it was the downfall of like all the upheaval and loss. But yeah, I don't know, what if that loss was just something to cut off before a new beginning or something, and we just haven't seen it yet? So I don't know. But that's more confusing. I guess to come back to what Sage was saying, it's probably because like the vision has not fully developed yet. But definitely I'm not going to judge the decline of Twitter on the articles because it feels like it's too, it just feels like politics for me. It's like he did this and he did that and his fault, when most of the things that happen now have roots in like years of making bad or good choices. So I don't think it's in 9 months that you can lose half the revenue, just 9 months. And also we have to take into account that this is an economy of like for me it's like a market based on fear, and it's the investors, and if they feel the fear of like, oh, it's not going to grow, it's going to lose, like they're going to retrieve their money, and then obviously it's not going to generate revenue, but it's subordinate to the trust of the advertisers and the investors, basically. So is it really a good metric, or is it a metric of like how much we fear and how much we are able to feel in a certain space? So yeah, that's just my questioning about that. I guess it feels better because it feels more neutral about the subject. It's not like, oh, Threads is good and Twitter is bad. It's like Threads is new, but how new? And is it repeating the same choices? And Twitter doesn't really feel bad right now, but it's going down. But why? And what's really the truth under it?
Yeah, I was reading that just now, that like part of Twitter's issue too is that so apparently they never got good as good as Facebook and Instagram and everyone at targeting ads to people, I guess. And I feel like that kind of makes sense intuitively based on like, on Facebook and Instagram, like there's such a wide variety of content, especially like visual content, I guess. And Facebook, people can join groups and like pages and all of this stuff. So Facebook collects so much information about people that they might have a good idea, I guess, of what people would be interested in. And apparently, like if your ads target users better and the advertising companies know about this, then that increases your revenue, like the amount that people are willing to pay you for advertising. And apparently Twitter just never got as good at that. So I guess maybe I don't know if it's part of the nature of the platform or if it's just like they just didn't crack the code on how to do that on Twitter. But it feels like, yeah, I don't know, that they still have value to offer as a company, and I feel like the thing about it too is that with Facebook, for me, for example, or Instagram, like it's not, for me as a user, and maybe others feel this way or maybe not, most of the value that it produces for me isn't advertising at all, because I don't buy many things besides food and other things. So I'm not the one to be like making impulse purchases on Amazon because I saw an ad on Facebook and I don't know who is. So, so Twitter, I don't know, maybe it's like not meant to function as much like that. Maybe its purpose is different. I don't know.
You bring up a good point, because I feel like visuals never really worked on Twitter, especially photos. So how can you like advertise when most of your thing goes through a visual? It's really I guess it's a question of every day when you work in an advertising company. And it's never really like, mostly it feels like Twitter is always about figuring out how to to make an appropriate version of what you were directing to Instagram for Twitter, but it's like almost like an afterthought. And so maybe losing ad revenue feels really bad economically right now. But yeah, if it's changing gear and if it has value in another place, in another space, well, maybe the economy is going to create something to adapt to that. And that would be nice, not to be like so dependent on ad revenue to make a company run, because then the intentions behind having ads and the user experience is that much clearer and agreeable to everyone. Yeah. Seems like we feel complete about social media. The one thing that we're going to talk about today after that, sorry, is I guess it's an update on the situation in Iran and how it's going. And it seems like in the past few weeks, it seemed like, how can I say, I'm losing my words in English right now. But I guess the laws, the restrictions on how to dress, they were reinforced again. And we don't exactly know why. And we were also just curious about like what happened in this past few months in Iran and how the situation is going. Personally, on TikTok, I saw a lot of people just saying, hey, I'm proud of my Iranian women for not going out with hijabs and things like that. And it's true, a lot of them went out without everything covering their hair. And it felt like life continued in this way, and they felt empowered in the way they lived still in Iran without that. And then there's this law that comes back again. So what does it speak to? What's the energy there? I'm curious of that.
When I read the article, I feel like I was just like picking up on this energy of like needing to go deeper. Almost like if you relate it to a person on their healing journey and, they heal a block and they think it's like the end of it and, taking care of that, but then it like comes up again. It's kind of like a similar feeling it comes up again so you can go deeper because there's more to heal. And I really feel like that's what is happening in Iran. I mean, I think the way that the people have handled it is very different than, before, but it still feels like there needs to be like a deeper healing around, just feeling empowered, feeling like, the government is controlling you or, however you want to phrase it. But I feel like it's just, kind of forcing the people of Iran to go deeper and to like really, really claim themselves in a deeper sort of way.
I was reading, in the article I shared that so many people, like so many women, are not following that rule about like needing to have your head covered in public anymore. So many aren't following it that some people are questioning the government's ability to enforce that, and so that means that well, obviously the people still have something to work through there. It's not like the government's control there has like gone away, but for the Iranian government, I feel like they have they basically like, they have to double down on their control if they want to maintain that illusion. I think it's going to become like way more expensive for them to maintain the illusion of control, because if so many people aren't following that rule, then to get more people to follow it, they have to do something to try to like, their goal would be to try to like do something to like strike fear into people, but without causing another massive protest cyclically, like again and again. Because those governments, I feel like the really totalitarian or authoritarian governments, they mainly enforce because people feel like they have a lot of power and people are afraid to step out of line. But it's kind of like, if enough people did step out of line, then they wouldn't have the ability to contain all of those people. So it kind of puts the government in like this difficult place. And it makes me not be sure what will happen there. But hopefully the people will continue with that momentum of resistance and defiance, and then the government will lose legitimacy even more. But I don't know how they'll respond to that. Yeah.
In the past year, like I think you both bring up things that are very valuable, because in the past year we've talked about so many countries, Russia or even Taiwan or Afghanistan, where it felt like the people were okay being in the status quo and felt bad that they were in the status quo, and the upheaval was there because they needed to make a choice, right? And so I guess it is to say that the choice is not actually just to go out with your head not covered. And it's really, I guess, pushing Iranians to realize that, right, it's a spiritual choice as well. Like, do we actually want this government or not? And if they truly didn't want it, the government wouldn't be there. So there's still something to heal there. And I guess so many parts of the world are going into this weird upheaval of like, you need to make a choice. But it's just to say that I guess there's something about safety. Like the government leaves you alone and you feel safe, or the government controls, but it keeps you safe. So you say nothing. But then the government, because it's a totalitarian government, it starts to take and take and take and take. And so it's always asking the questions of like, how much do you want it to take? Do you want your actual freedom? Or do you want to trade it for a little bit of safety that feels bad? And sometimes it isn't even true because you're not actually safe. Looking at China, for example. So there's something deep there to heal, deep spiritual choice to make, and it's just like, don't trade your actual freedom for like an instant gratification of safety and shelter and comfort, because it's not real safety and comfort. How does this feel? I feel like there's something that is a bit heavy in terms of like talking about Iran.
I don't know. I really feel like a lot of this is just kind of like Iran being able to like forgive its past, just because like just hearing my parents talk about the revolution and, their experiences, like a lot of people feel like Iranians like betrayed themselves by, even though like the coup was very much influenced by like, France, England, the United States. There was outside influence, but there was also like a lot of internal, division. And it's almost like there's two camps, like one camp that loves the Shah and, wishes that Iran was kind of in that pre-Islamic Republic era. And then there's another camp that thinks the Shah was a dictator and, celebrates like Khomeini, the first Ayatollah, and, everything that's happened since then. So I feel like there's just like a lot of pain, like feelings of betrayal, feeling like you can't really trust yourself. And, I see it among the Iranian community, even people that have left the country. Like there's always like this sense of suspicion until like you really get to know someone. And so I feel like it goes a lot deeper than even like, how women are treated, but how most of the population is treated. I mean, the government keeps most of the resources for themselves and their families, and there's like very bad financial distribution. There's a lot of poverty, there's a lot of inequality, high rates of unemployment, issues with like opium, like the list goes on. And so it's almost like there's just like a big like forgiveness and like almost like tenderness, like there's like this energy of just like very much like judging yourself and being hard on yourself, but that kind of like perpetuates the status quo, what is happening.
Mhm.
So yeah, I don't know, that's what was coming up for me.
So you say when you meet an Iranian, you feel that a sort of tension and suspicion around them because you don't really.
I don't personally feel that, but I've noticed it, especially among like my parents' generation, like people that experienced the revolution and like basically had to give up their whole life and leave the country. There's like this sense of like you can't trust your fellow brethren, your fellow countrymen, because I'm not even quite sure why, but I feel like it's all kind of tied to this. And there's always like, like I said, two camps, like you either love the Shah or you hate him. And, there's like people still debate about all these things. And I feel like it's such a raw thing for Iran, because even like historically, when you look at the development of the country, there's always been some sort of like outside influence coming and, influencing, whether it was like Russia, the Arabs, the Romans, like Alexander the Great. And so like Iran really didn't find its own stability, I think, until the first Shah. And I think that's why a lot of people like appreciated him. And then they almost felt like all of that abundance was taken away with the coup and like the shift to a theocracy, basically, like the Islamic Republic. So yeah, it's an odd thing to witness, like I always would be very confused as a child, like, why is there so much drama among like all these adults? And I just feel like a lot of people are still hurt and kind of angry at, what has happened. And it's like they're just blaming each other.
Yeah, it feels like they're projecting, while the real question is like, what is the real Iran, to put it simply.
Yeah.
It seems like you're not going to find it in trying to base the origin of Iran. Was when the Arabs were there? Was it when the Europeans were there? Is it 100% Persian? Is it? It just feels like nonsense, especially when you're a kid, because it's like part of your culture, but it's not like, it doesn't define you. And I think it's almost very childish, I guess. And it's not just Iran, it's a lot of country to base yourself on the origin of this or that or this or that, especially because like most origins are so murky. Like, for example, why would people in the Caribbean say they're 100% from Africa when they're from four different ethnic groups, and we wouldn't even be Caribbean if it wasn't for that? And why would Pakistani and Indians feel so separated, where it's basically mostly similar ethnic groups, but it's just a different religion, and it's traumatized everyone, and every family has a history in that. And so if you try to see it as separating for religions and for skin color and origins and things like that, you're never going to have peace, basically. And so, I don't know, the big question is how do we move past that? Because it feels like to protect themselves, a lot of people are still using these theories and these thoughts in order to say, hey, like, for example, even Americans, like, is it a country of immigrants, or is it a Christian country? Is it a white country? And a lot of people are just using theory of things that are not even real, just to protect themselves and their origins and their way of life, when you can just leave it and accept that you're different from everyone. And yeah, I don't know, it feels very murky still, but there's something at the core of that.
I don't know, I kind of feel like you hit the nail on the head with saying, like, what is the real Iran? I kind of feel like there's a bit of an identity crisis, because, like, depending on who you ask, you'll hear a different answer. There's Iranians that are like anti-Arab, that don't like that, like, Islam came. They still like practice Zoroastrianism and all the pre-Islamic stuff. And then there's people that are like in the total opposite boat. And so I don't even think Iranians have a good sense of like what it means to be Iranian, because there's been so many outside influence and just like so many like political shifts, like so much instability. And so a lot of people, they just like hold on to the past or like the status quo without really trying to think like, well, how do we move forward? Because there are things that need to be addressed, like whether you are pro regime or not. It's clear that like economically Iran's not doing well. There's like so many indicators that something needs to change, but yet it's like we're not able to like get to the core of it, because like there's all this confusion around the values, like what, like collectively as a country, like what do we value, who are we, what do we want? So I think, I don't know if that's like the core of it, but I feel like you were getting to something deep when you were talking about that, Eurine.
Mm-hmm. I'm just thinking. Sage, do you want to say something in the meantime? No.
Yeah.
No, it's okay. It's just that, yeah, I'm trying to feel into. I feel like every time we hit this kind of questions, we come to a head, like there is so much still energy, and that doesn't feel good. And I think most of the time I hit this when I healed generational trauma. For example, I know my family is from the, like, it's equal parts for me, like Black and white and Indian and Native American, right? And I'm a Black woman. And I have a double identity, still European as well. And there's so much weight to that. But the more, when I was younger, the deeper I got into trying to find answers just in the past, the more I had like a very temporary satisfaction. That also felt like it didn't cover everything from what I am. And so, I mean, like, what are you? Are you just present? And I think like it's mostly about like getting to know yourself at present too. And I think maybe the more we get to dig and try to dig a past that may be true or not, the more we get lost. It feels like an old system of thoughts, and maybe unionism is there too, to say, hey, there are cultures, there are different people, we're all unique. And maybe I'm Iranian and I came from these groups and these groups and these groups and these groups, and I don't know which part, but there's something in me that calls to all of these things, and I bring that to unionism, and that feels so much more relaxing, I feel. So maybe the simple answer is that we created a system to which we're always looking to past references to try to build the values of our countries and our religion and our groups. And it just feels like unionism is very, it's like, it's about present, and it's about building something new and building something that feels good. And obviously we take from spirituality and things that are awesome in every culture and every religion, but we don't take the past of them, we take the message, the eternal message, the love, and we integrate it into who we are right now. Yeah, so maybe it's just that. So simple and yet so difficult to to put in place.
Yeah.
That was a really beautiful way of expressing all that, you know.
Thanks. Yeah. That's literally what I felt ever since I was a child. I was like, why are Black and white people always fighting? Why are like the left side and right sides of the political spectrum always fighting? We want the same thing, you know? And then you grow up and you try to get integrated into society, and you kind of forget what this was all about, because you try to adapt and know about yourself and take your place to identify yourself into a society. And the fact that unionism is saying that you don't have to actually identify with society. You start remembering what it is to just be, you know. It feels so much lighter. I'm sure we all have similar experiences about that. Maybe, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can't replace knowledge of your relationship with the divine and your knowledge of yourself. You can't replace that with identification with anything outside of you, you know. And that's a good way that to avoid self-exploration and examination. And that's not to say, but that's also not saying like that culture is an illusion or shouldn't exist, or like cultures and everything like that, and like they exist at the same time, but without your knowledge and love and acceptance of yourself and like your own relationship with the divine, how can you really truly relate to others? And so it's the harmony of both of those things, and it's not like either or, like the West is individualistic, but the West also has culture, which everyone has culture. Or there's the other cultures, now Western cultures are more like collectivistic, and it's like, you know, collectivism, individualism, let's see who wins. It's like, no. So, yes.
Yeah, 100%. There's also something about culture. We're always talking about it by saying, hey, we need to put our differences aside. And we're always like justifying afterwards, like it's not to mean that your culture is unimportant because there is something divine about it. And I think it stems from what Jeff often explains about like the fact that every country and every culture is claiming to find God and aiming to find God, and maybe they're not doing it in the right way and they never find God, and it's not really, we discover it's not really about it, but there's something about the intention that is very clear, and it is to find God. And people just don't know that you don't find God in the system that is in place. You find God in building a system that is fully divine, not something that is meant to take from the get-go. And maybe that's why we see glimpses of divinity, of beautiful uniqueness and individuality in every culture. Yeah. Any last words before we part ways? No.
No,
Okay.
not really. Yeah, I feel it because I feel like later we could continue. That would be a really interesting transition to talking about the demographic changes that are projected by like 2050 and later. But we could continue with that later.
That's very true. I forgot talking about that. Demographics is actually way more important than what we realize, especially the forecasts that scientists have by 2050. So maybe we should start with that next week.
Sounds good.
Very cool. Well, thank you for this discussion. Thank you to everyone that was watching us live from our Facebook group, and thank you to everyone that's watching us from YouTube. If you liked what you saw, don't hesitate to like the video and subscribe to the channel and share it so that we can continue to share our message of unionism with everyone. And yeah, have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Bye.